Next on a wild card weekend edition of NFL Primetime, the Saints hoping their perfect home record in the regular season would translate into the postseason. Experience not necessary this afternoon in Houston. Two rookie quarterbacks squaring off against each other in the postseason for the first time in the Super Bowl era. Plus, we'll get you set for the two games on Sunday as well. It's all ahead on this edition of NFL Primetime.
Welcome to NFL Primetime, presented by Trey.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome into this wild card weekend edition of NFL Primetime. Glad you are here with us. Trey, Wingo alongside Merrill, Hoge, and Trent Dilfer. Guys, Saturday night, for the second time in just about a month, the Detroit Lions went to the Mercedes Superdome in New Orleans. Now, the last time, the Saints won by 14, 31-17. However, this time, the Lions brought in something they didn't have for that first meeting. Defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh. That was the first of his two-game suspension. They were hoping it would make a difference. Keyword there, hoping. Drew Brees and Matthew Stafford looking for what could have been a shootout, and they were not disappointed. First touchdown, of course, it's going to Will Heller, and the Lions go 80 yards on 8 plays to take a 7-0 lead, and then the running game, yes, the running game of the Saints takes over. Look at Pierre Thomas. Will not go down with first contact, rips off 31 yards, and later in that drive, when that happens, Darren Sproles can do this, Merrill.
Great job of pressing the hole, and look how quick he is laterally, finds that little seam, and oh, what do we have here? We got a great job of movement there. When he pressed the whole post defenders in there, then gets to the perimeter for a touchdown.
Just like that, we tie it up at 7. That was not going to slow down Matthew Stafford early. Megatron was held out of the end zone in the first meeting, not this time, Trent.
Great job by the Lions getting Calvin Johnson open by putting him in the slot. Now you can't put the true double on him. Worked all night long, especially there in the red zone out of that empty formation.
Okay, now they're up 14-7, and here was a real critical play. 2nd and 6, the ball comes loose. It is ruled a fumble on the field, but the whistle was blown, so there's no scoop and score, Trent.
Yeah, and for everybody thinking this was going to be a gimme touchdown for the Lions, remember something. As soon as that whistle blows, all those Saints players stop pursuing the ball. That's why it looks so bad right there.
But they got no points on that drive. Second time they didn't have a turnover lead to points. And here, Marcus Colston is ruled a touchdown, and then that's a penalty on Spivey for touching his helmet?
He did touch the helmet. I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah,
was it a penalty? We could debate that.
Well, it was not a touchdown. They had to settle for a field goal to make it 14-10. Third quarter, the adjustments the Saints made after halftime, unbelievable. There's the throw to Detriot Henderson for a 41-yarder.
And that's why it's the playoff primetime dime. It's perfectly thrown. It's a perfect route, and it changes the game.
Gives the Saints their first lead of the game. Later, Brees, let's see. Oh, Merrill, there's an opportunity for Eric Wright.
One of many, actually. Boy, just to get that interception would have been big time. And that could have been a possible pick 6.
Yeah, later on the drive, they go for it on 4th and inches. Who knew Drew Brees had ups?
One of the best athletes playing the quarterback position, Drew Brees, shows those mad hops right there, getting the first. Great instincts by Drew Brees going up over the top.
Let's just call them hops, not mad hops.
Mad hops.
But later on that drive, Brees to Marcus Colston, caught inside the 5, and that's a 40-yard gain for a 1st and goal, and then they go to Jimmy. Jimmy Graham, Jimmy score. Jimmy like. How was Jimmy so wide open?
I love the Lions' plan here. Just don't cover him. That's just simply what they did.
Yeah. That's
so good.
All week of preparation to devise that defense.
He's so good, let's just let him go by himself.
They stuck to the plan. Saints up 24-14. No quit in the Lions. Megatron going off. Remember, only 6 catches, 69 yards in the first meeting. They held him out of the end zone. That was not the case here. And that sets up this. Stafford, you go! From Highland Park High School, he just gets the pylon. They call it a touchdown, right, Rule?
I think it's right. It looks like that nose the ball touches that pylon right as that knee hits the ground. I like it.
Ruling confirmed. It's a 3-point game, 24-21. By rule, you have to play the 4th quarter.
Still a good rule.
They go for it on 4th and 2 again, and Sproles, bam, gets the corner for the 2 yards. And another gamble by Sean Payton paying off, and 2 plays later, Brees goes downfield. Another missed opportunity by Aaron Berry.
Absolutely. You're able just to intercept him. One of the times could have been the difference in this game.
Changes the momentum of the game. Instead, this happens. Boom! Darren Sproles in for the 17-yard score.
A great job of, first pressing the hole. We got a seal here and a seal there. And we're going to give it an alley, not really a canally, but it's big enough for Darren Sproles to get through for a touchdown.
He doesn't need a canally.
Exactly. That's exactly why we couldn't give that.
Just give him like a buttonhole opening. He can get through it. Puts him back up by 10, and then the turnover that the Lions couldn't get. Here the Saints get it. It's picked up by Jabari Greer, and then that, kids, leads to this. Pump fake, Robert Meacham, and... well, apparently, the idea was to not cover him, Trent.
Well, you said it, Trey. The pump fake right about now is when Drew pumps. You see the safety bite. Corner doesn't trail in cover two. Allows Meacham open down the rail. Drew Brees as good as anybody feeling that rail shot and getting him the receiver the ball.
17-point lead, but back come the Lions. Megatron again. What a game. 211 yards, 2 touchdowns. They're trying to stay in this thing. It's back to 10. They got to get a stop. Instead, they get this. Meacham one more time. 41 yards. They ruled him down at the 1, and 2 plays later, the anvil. Pierre Thomas, bam, boom, punches it in. The Saints outscore the Lions 45-28. Drew Brees, 466 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. The 466, the second most in a playoff game in NFL history. Only Bernie Kosar's 489 against the Jets with the Cleveland Browns in that playoff had more. Here's Sean Payton after the game.
First off, we tip our hat to Detroit for coming in here and playing their guts out. They have a real good football team, and Jim and his staff and the players there had a heck of a season. And listen, we know it's disappointing, but that's a good win for us. And it was a good, especially good second half of football. We kind of bounced back and overcame some of the turnovers. So, any questions?
How much? I know he scored a touchdown at the end, but Pierre Thomas seemed like he was really.
He had some good effort plays. I would agree, Larry. I thought he played with good energy, his balance. I thought there's a ton of yards after contact that he gave us tonight that was impressive. And he's healthy, and we had a good rotation going with those 3 guys. I was pleased with our balance. We kind of overcame the 2 turnovers in the first half and kind of got back on track.
The offense broke another record tonight. What's yards in playoff games? It's kind of the offense.
We're just focused on winning. Really, we're not focused on yards and records, honestly, and I'm being serious when I say it. The task at hand is to find a way to have a point more than the opponent. And we made some big plays tonight, especially in the second half, and that was encouraging. We saw a defense that was very, very patient. Sometimes that can be frustrating, but they sat in coverage and periodically would break that shell. But I was pleased how we protected the ball in the second half, and I thought the big plays in the second half really helped us. So regarding all the other stuff, that's not that important.
When did you kind of decide to dive?
Well, they may not be important, but here's some of the other things they put up. We told you about the 466, 626 yards total offense. That is a new record by the New Orleans Saints.
Good.
The game, by the way, 1,038 yards. That ties the record for the most yards in a playoff game with a 1995 game between the Bills and the Dolphins. Obviously, a big part of that, what Drew Brees was able to do, 466 yards. And, Trent, it does sound funny to say it when you see those numbers, but the running game was a critical part of the Saints offense tonight.
It really was, and it was the key to it. I feel like I'm going to the dark side, Merrill's side on
that. Is a dark place.
Because it'd be great just talking about those 466, and we could show dime after dime and big plays in the passing game. But what changed this game for the Saints was the runners. Pierre Thomas, Darren Sproles, Chris Ivory making a difference in this game. So much versatility they bring this football team. And it started early on the first touchdown drive. Now, this is the first touchdown drive. They have 3rd and 10 backed up. They throw a screen play. This should be tackled 5 yards, 6 yards short of the first down. But Pierre Thomas wills himself past the chains. They end up scoring on the drive. Then they give him the ball in the same drive. Inside zone, blocked for about 8, and he gets about 28 on the run because of his effort and will and power in his legs. And then they give it to the little back, Darren Sproles. Well-blocked play, but look at the burst in there. He slices the defense, creates width in the defense when he runs the ball, and you get in a passing formation down by the goal line, and you can hand him the ball, and he can finish it off as a runner. And I love seal the game here with this little inside zone, then the little jitterbug move, and then beep, beep, speed to get in the end zone. I love these Saints running backs. They create so much system versatility, Trey, Merrill, and it's really the engine that drives this powerful Saints offense.
No question about it. And remember, they're doing this without the rookie they took in the first round of last year's draft, Mark Ingram. He's out on injured reserve, but here's the three-headed monster. And listen, this is just their rushing. This does not even take into account how they helped out Drew Brees in the passing game as well. Thomas, 8 carries for 66 yards. Darren Sproles averaged over 5 yards a carry. And when they needed an anvil, Chris Ivory, the pride of Tiffin University, ladies and gentlemen, was somehow able to get it done. And all that running really complemented and really set up what Drew Brees could do from the aerial effect.
Actually said it perfectly. It set it up. Because you know what, Detroit was, in the first half, it would have been fine. Listen, you're going to run the football. We'd rather you do that than create matchups and throw the football. But I'm telling you this, the second half, eventually, every defense gets tired of guys gashing you. And when you do that, you start peeking in the backfield, your safety starts freezing for a second, and that's what the Saints took advantage of. In that second half, their run action of how Drew Brees and this Saint offense has been amazing at this all year. You do that little run action boot mini roll, and you get your big play down the field. But watch the safety to that side. Just freezes his feet for just a second. Now, to redirect and get back on top, it's too late. It's too late in the NFL when you freeze to that magnitude. And when you look at Drew Brees' completion percentage at just over 70%, I am telling you, that is absolutely staggering. And every meeting of every offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, when you're talking to your guys, you want to be between 60 and 65%. You believe you're in those numbers, you are dialed in. That is big-time numbers. To be at 70 plus, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It almost leaves you speechless.
See how I got him to talk about quarterbacks tonight?
Well, it was a ploy.
Back,
It was a ploy to get it back to where Trent wanted to talk about it. By the way, talking about those running backs and the receiving aspect of it, Sproles and Pierre Thomas combined for 10 catches for 89 yards, and those were critical yards, especially early in the game where they kept drives alive on 3rd and long several times. And you got to catch your hands off to Matt Stafford and what he was able to do. 28 of 43, 380 yards as well. We will hear from Matt Stafford a little bit later on this edition of NFL Primetime. Lots more coming, including what to make of not only the Saints going forward in the postseason, but the Lions' future for 2012 in the regular season. That's all ahead. And oh, by the way, experience not necessary on the first game on Wild Card Saturday as the Texans found a way to get their first ever playoff win. Plus, we'll look ahead to the Sunday games, including Tebow versus Roethlisberger. Prime time, we will be here till 1 a.m. and the Lions' run in the postseason for the first time since '99 is over thanks to Drew Brees doing this. This is a 2nd and 17, by the way, and somehow Robert Meacham wide open for the 58-yard score. Saints go on to win 45-28, and look at what they have done in the regular season this year. Keep in mind they averaged 41 points at home, 2nd most in a season in NFL history. They averaged almost 500 yards per game, 327 passing yards, and 27 first downs. They bettered all of those numbers in the Saturday night showdown with the Detroit Lions. Those 466 passing yards by Drew Brees, the 2nd most in a game in NFL playoff history. Trey Wingo here with Merrill, Hoge, and Trent Dilfer. Stupid good numbers is what we're trying to say.
Stupidly good.
It's ridiculous what Drew Brees and company have done, and they are on such a roll going forward. We'll talk about where they go next and what happens when they play the San Francisco 49ers. But listen, this was the first time for the Detroit Lions in the postseason since 1999. They gave it their best shot, had an early lead twice in this game, but just couldn't make those critical plays down the stretch and in the second half of the game. Here's what Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford had to say after the loss.
Yeah, you know, they were playing great. Obviously, you know, a couple times there in the first half, we got some turnovers and didn't capitalize on them, but still had the lead at halftime, and we were playing well. We just, you know, couldn't keep up in the second half. They, they played great on offense. You got to give them a lot of credit. Got some turnovers when they needed them on defense, and they were putting the ball in the end zone quite a bit.
Matt, everybody talks about the difference of the game in the postseason. For many of you guys, it was your first playoff experience. Did you notice much difference between playoff football and regular season?
I thought, no. I mean, there's obviously an atmosphere, but as far as it's the same 11 guys we played 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, whatever it is. They're a good football team. I felt like we moved the ball well on offense. Maybe didn't put some touchdowns when we needed them, but you know, you got to give their hats off to them. They're a great team. They're tough to stop. Their offensive line's playing fantastic, giving Drew a bunch of time, and you know, those guys are running free out there.
What do you take away from this experience today? The whole thing coming down here, seeing how they took advantage of their home field and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. You know, especially a place like this. You know, they feed off it. They play great here, and you know, it makes you want to go out there and win your division that much more, and you know, have a chance to be at home and do things like that. But you know, it was a learning experience for our whole team. You know, not many guys know those guys have been in a Lions uniform and been in the playoffs. You know, it was a learning experience. We'll learn from it. We'll get better. You know, we'll be back, and you know, we have a competent, you know, bunch of guys, and you know, obviously they're hurts right now, but you know, we'll be ready to go.
I'm not reflecting on the season today.
Was it not taking advantage of the turnovers early? You had a chance to maybe put them on their back.
Yeah, taking advantage of the turnovers. We had 80 yards ahead of us after the turnovers. I mean, it wasn't like we're getting them at the plus 20-yard line. You know, that game had everything to do with missed opportunities on defense. Probably 3 drop picks that all take points off the board. 2 failed 4th downs. You know, I mean, that's it. I mean, when you face a team like that, you have to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. You got to be able to get off the field on the 3rd downs and the 4th downs. We were awful on 3rd and 4th down. We dropped chances to make interceptions. It had nothing to do with capitalizing on turnovers. I mean, that wasn't it. I mean, the one turnover that it would have been nice to have capitalized on was the sack forced fumble that should have been a touchdown, because every other time in this league they let that play go and they don't blow the whistle. We were a victim of that last week with them continuing plays, and for some reason in this game they decided to blow the whistle when that would have been 7 points in this. And I think that's those kind of missed opportunities are more the where this game went, not on offense.
So you don't necessarily just look at this as a great offense and a great quarterback doing what they do. You look at what you guys didn't do, and what do you specifically you think you didn't do?
Didn't I just cover that?
Well, pressure on the quarterback.
We didn't. No, I'll repeat it. We missed opportunities to make interceptions. We failed on 3rd and 4th downs. Can add we tackled poorly too. Give up 28 points in the second half, whatever it was, more than that, right?
Jim Schwartz is always on fire, a little fired up after that press conference. Understandable. I mean, I'm sure he thought they had a real good chance to win that game. They had the lead twice in that game early.
Did you repeat that again?
Well, I think I just covered that, but I will repeat that. I think they had some issues, but
very good.
You know what? Listen, obviously it's not the way they wanted it to end in Detroit, but their quarterback is playing great. And Trent, the future for this franchise for the first time in a long time, looks really good.
What a great year for the Detroit Lions. I mean, it kind of started the draft. The momentum started building. People started talking about the Lions. The year starts. They obviously get off to the fast start. So much to look forward to if you're a Lions fan. We talk about Matthew Stafford, Calvin Johnson, Titus Young. But system continuity offensively, Scott Linehan, the offensive coordinator, one of the best coordinators in this league, and what they do on a week-to-week basis to use all these tools to get everybody involved is great. Because of that, they're always going to be able to have sustainability offensively. Look what they did tonight. Calvin Johnson, the New Orleans Saints wanted to take him out of the game, but the Lions put him in the slot. By putting him in the slot, they could take the double off him. You see the slant there. Now they get down to the red zone. They go empty. Why do they do that? Because you can't double Calvin. If you're in empty formation, you allow him to get up on the safety on a corner route, equals points. Later on in the game again, you put him in the slot. Attract so much attention everywhere else, but you get him in the slot. Now you create isolation matchups for him. Now you can get him open all the time. It's these types of things that Scott Linehan does that allows this offense to be so explosive every week. It utilizes all the abilities of their players, which is the job of any coordinator.
You know, anytime a young team has success like this, the word that pops into my head right away that you got to be alert to not have fallen is complacency. You can't let your team think, even though they're young, We're going to be able to do this next year. You know, the first thing I would do, I could take Matthew Stafford. Had a great year, had amazing numbers. However, he can get better. He gets sloppy at times, and he has not been as consistent as he can be. Then I got to add some energy to this offense. There has to be some type of balance. There's got to be another phase. You watch the New Orleans Saints. They couldn't get their offense going tonight. What did they do? They landed on their running game and all types of ways to use their running backs, and then their pass game started rolling around. Detroit needs that. I know you thought about some defensive guys. I know we don't have time to do all that, but that's the type of energy you can add. The challenge that you can add to a great player. Go, listen, you're great. However, you can be better. You can be better in these phases. Now you got to do that. They need to have that balance and add that other phase to get to the next level. And the next level is to win a playoff game and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think on your point, they're very good right now, but there's a big chasm between where they're at now and to be great. I think they need to do a lot of things before
they're good right now.
Great.
Well, and part of that will be one of the problems that didn't really rear its head in this game, but it was down the stretch. It was some of those penalties, be a more disciplined team. However, they were hurt a little by injuries. Mikel LaSure, the running back they took in the draft, never got around, tore his Achilles early in the season. Javid Best wasn't there. Those are the kind of explosive players that would add that dimension to the offense that we're talking about. The future is bright for the Detroit Lions. We'll have much more on the Saints and what's ahead for them as they go to San Francisco a little bit later. Plus, we'll look at the NFC wildcard game on Sunday between the Falcons and the Giants. And let us not forget there was another game, a record-setting game between the Bengals and the Texans, something that had never happened before in the Super Bowl era. Stay with us. Well, primetime, Trey Wingo here with Merrill, Hoge, and Trent Dilfer. You know, the Texans' first ever game. Merrill, you and I were there doing our radio show.
Oh, my gosh.
Reliant Stadium.
I was wondering if you're going to pull that out.
2002 on a Sunday night game. They beat the Dallas Cowboys. 10 years later, Texans' first ever playoff game at Reliant Stadium, and the Bengals were the invited guests that brought in the longest active playoff drought in the NFL. Bengals hadn't won a playoff game since January of 1991. That was against Houston, the Oilers, and this was the first ever time in the Super Bowl era two rookie quarterbacks, Dalton and Yates, in a playoff game starting off. First quarter, no score. Bengals to A.J. Green and pass interference on Glover Quinn. Armbar, Trent?
Yeah, I thought it was the right call. I like how Jay Gruden, the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals, came out of this game dialing up plays, taking shots, putting air in the defense.
All right, so that sets him up later on the drive, 3rd and 7. Dalton to Brian Leonard out of Rutgers, takes it to the 2-yard line, sets up a 1st and goal, and that paves the way for Cedric Benson.
Yeah, great job. Trent already mentioned, great mixture, you know, run, pass, vertical, screens, and power running.
Didn't see enough of that from Benson in the rushing game of the Bengals in this contest. Now, there's Owen Daniels, and Reggie Nelson is called for the hit and the personal foul. Tough call, but probably the right one.
Yeah, well, anytime you're around the neck, head area, they're going to call it.
So personal foul, they get the 15, and later on that drive, Arian Foster. Boy, give him a corner, and you're not going to get him.
Well, that's what they did a better job of in this game versus the first time they played the Bengals, is they got the edge, and then Arian Foster is brilliant at setting up blocks and getting in the end zone.
Pac-Man Jones sort of making an effort there. That tied the game at 7.
Let's put it this way. It's not good enough.
Well, we got more on that later. Second quarter tied at 10. Dalton's pass is picked up by J.J. Watt. Remember, at Central Michigan, he was a tight end before he left there to go play D-line at Wisconsin.
Yeah, this is more than good enough. This is exceptional. This is good to play by a defensive lineman, as you'll see. This is a laser by Andy Dalton. I mean, he's double cheeking this throw, and J.J. Watt goes up and snags it out of the air and finishes it off. What an athletic play, great hand-eye coordination, great awareness to stop his rush, pull up, and look to knock down the ball, and finds himself catching the ball.
And a new sports phrase enters the lexicon. He was double-cheeking the throw. 17-10. T.J. Yates apparently single-cheeking here because this one should have been picked up by Chris Crocker.
Yeah, Chris Crocker gave them, the Bengals, an opportunity to make up for that pick 6, and it could have evened out things a little bit, but drops it.
And it did not happen. Then 3rd and 6. Yates to Andre. Yeah, hot potato, but somehow Trent, he finds a way to hang on and get the first down.
Yeah, and we're going to see Andre Johnson make a good catch on a tough ball, but it was a great play by Yates getting away from the blitzer, buying time and throwing the ball back across his body, convert that 3rd down.
Remember, all of this set up by the dropped pick 6, and then Yates to Andre for the touchdown, and a great move here.
Yeah, well, you know what? Not getting that interception allowed the Texans to do this. Little stutter go to the outside. Adam Jones peeking in the backfield, a little sloppy, safety too flat, you got yourself a touchdown.
24-10, fourth quarter. They're trying to make something happen here, and Andy Dalton throws this one up, and that is picked off by Danielle Manning. The Texans take over, and really at that point it was slipping away. And here's the one that seals the deal. Foster, left side for the first touchdown, right side this time. And, well, was Chris Crocker a willing participant on that play?
Not a good game for Chris Crocker.
And sometimes good players have rough games. That's the case for Chris Crocker.
Yeah, right in there. Listen, Arian Foster was brilliant. 24 carries, $153 and 2 touchdowns. And the Texans in their first ever playoff game. Oh, kisses for everybody. Andre Johnson finally tastes the postseason and has a little success. The final 31-10, a huge day for Arian Foster. $153 on 24 attempts, 2 touchdowns. Andy Dalton played well except for the interceptions. One really wasn't his problem, the J.J. Watt pick 6. However, the Bengals now have set a dubious NFL record. They're the first team ever to have 4 straight playoff games in which they've scored first and still managed to lose all 4 games. That's not the case for the Texans. They move on to play the Ravens.
I'm just elated. I'm just excited, you know, happy to bring this city a playoff win that's been thirsty for a playoff win for years. And to be a part of that, it just feels so good. You can feel the energy and the buzz throughout the city.
I'm disappointed that I was unable to get us, put us in position today to win the football game and get us over the hump here. And that's the disappointing thing. I'm proud of how our guys fight and play, and but I kind of told them it's it's my responsibility.
We feel like we have a bright future, and it's still unfortunate that it ended this way, but we're gonna push this off season and make sure we can keep going in the playoffs and make a run at it.
I grew up right down the road and in the Heights, and it's a special day. And I was sitting in my office all day today, leading up to the game, looking outside, thinking, holy, the Texans are in a playoff game, and it felt good. So I'm just very proud of all the guys and the job they did, and hopefully there's some more to come.
Gary Kubiak from the Houston era, as is Andy Dalton, quarterback for the Bengals, grew up outside of Houston in Katy, Texas. But how about J.J. Watt? Becomes the first rookie in 10 years to return an interception in the playoffs, the first to do it since Tommy Polley of the Rams. And J.J. Watt's in pretty good company. Some others to do it, Hall of Famers Darrell Green and Ronnie Lott. Watt is also just the 4th player since 1982, when sacks became an official stat, to record a sack and an interception for a touchdown in a playoff game. And Merrill, we talked about it in the Saints game, and the same thing was true in this game early. There were opportunities, and the opportunities went the way of the Texans and not the Bengals.
I call them the unknown. Right. I mean, if you had this stat, and it's the only stat that really matters, as long as there's going to be this, and that means turnovers, you're going to probably tell you who's going to win this football game to about an 80 percentile. But when the Texans got that pick 6, one of 2 things had to happen for the Bengals. When they got the ball in the second half, they either had to score or they had to create their own interception or turnover to shift it. But this pick 6, let me tell you this about J.J. Watt. This is like trying to catch a fly with chopsticks. That's how hard that is. He does that, pick 6. Now the Bengals are in that quandary. Okay, we got to get a turnover. Well, guess what? Lo and behold, here's our opportunity. Chris Crocker read it beautifully. Now he's just got to catch it. Because I'm telling you this, that's close to a pick 6. That interception then allowed this. The Texans to come back to this in a few plays. That stutter go and touchdown, and that was it. Those sequence of plays were the key to this game. One team capitalized on an interception, pick 6. The other missed it, and then that provided the Houston Texans that opportunity for a little stutter go, and it was over.
Yeah, those unknown plays you talk about so often are indeed turnovers. And you look at the stat sheet, Trent, and you say T.J. Yates, 11 of 20, $159 or so, but he didn't. He had a clean card, to use a golf term. No turnovers for him. He managed the game well.
And he was fortunate. Chris Crocker dropped the 1 pick when he made the 1 bad error. Had a couple balls early on that floated up in the air that didn't get intercepted. But the storyline going in this game was, how was the rookie 3rd-string quarterback T.J. Yates going to respond on this type of stage? And I thought overall the kid played pretty darn well, especially on drives that led to points. Look at critical down football, 3rd and 4. T.J. Yates, progression passing, not getting stuck on one guy, gets back inside, makes an accurate throw to the tight end, moves the chains. That drive led to points. 3rd and 4 again. Works down the field, throws an absolute strike. That's perfect location to Andre Johnson, extending the drive, allowing him to put points on the board. And then what I thought was the play of the game, Chris Crocker on the blitz, TJ Yates, the pocket awareness. Most young quarterbacks are just going to bolt. Yates slides to his right, but at the same time, keeping his focus on Andre Johnson going across the field. It's not a great throw, but it's a good enough throw. And then that leads to this. He put the ball in the end zone. Why is this vision cone so important, him looking off the safety? Well, it gets Andre Johnson open down the boundary. Now, Andre Johnson makes a great double move, but it's the safety's job if the corner gets beat to get back over the top and assist on this play. But because TJ Yates had the discipline of pinning the safety in the middle of the football field, it allowed Andre Johnson to win there and be free down the boundary. I thought the kid overall was one of the reasons why they won. They didn't win despite him.
Yeah, you know, Thanksgiving rolled around. No one thought TJ Yates would be in this position. And lo and behold, the injuries that happened, and here he is, and he did his job. Remember, it was TJ Yates that led the Texans back in Cincinnati against the Bengals on that touchdown score with very few seconds left on the clock. That got them into the postseason, and he beats the Bengals to give the Texans a chance at another playoff game. They will travel to Baltimore. When we continue, we'll take a look at what's ahead on Sunday in the AFC. Tim Tebow against Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Plus, we will hear from Drew Brees, another unbelievable performance as they get set to take on a very tough test in San Francisco. At the Mercedes Superdome, lived up to the hype. Matthew Stafford played great, but Drew Brees was out of his mind. 466 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. They were down 14-10, but this one to Devery Henderson from 41 yards out gave them the lead. All kinds of time, that clean pocket. Never got a lot of pressure from the Lions up front. Made it 17-14, and in the 4th quarter, here's the ball game. Meacham wide open, 58 yards. Again, Brees, 466 yards, 3 touchdowns. Saints win 45-28. Here's Drew.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when Pierre came in first day in 2007, undrafted free agent out of Illinois. And, you know, I immediately loved him just because he's Big Ten, and so we stick together. But, you know, he was probably 5th or 6th on the depth chart coming in. Not sure if he'd make the team. You know, if he did, he was going to have to make it on special teams. But he played so well in preseason that we had to keep him. We had no choice. And, you know, started off on special teams until the last game of the 07 season, and then got his first start against the Chicago Bears because we had about 4 or 5 running backs down, hurt. And he rushes for over 100 and has over 100 receiving. So I think he started off. I mean, that paints the picture about Pierre Thomas, taking advantage of every opportunity he's ever been given. Nothing's ever been handed to him. He's had to earn it. Never played with a guy who's tougher, smarter, more versatile. You know, just everything you'd want a teammate. And he has been a huge part of that backfield, you know, for the last 5 years. And I've seen him play a lot of great games, but tonight might be one of the best ones I've ever seen him play. And rarely do I get a chance to, you know, sit back and watch, because I'm always thinking about the next play, the next series, the situation, whatever it might be. But I could not help but notice the way he ran tonight, shedding tacklers one after another, getting the tough yards. I mean, it was phenomenal.
Can you run through the 4th down play in the 3rd quarter? You guys are up 3, in your own territory, shot the call to go for a 4th down.
Yeah, was that the QB sneak? Yeah. Well, I mean, it was fourth and inches. We felt like, you know, we had a rhythm going. I wanted to keep that going. Obviously, that's a gutsy call, but we've been known to make those type of calls, and just felt like we could get it, and we got it. Maybe we didn't even want to think about not getting it, because obviously that would have put our defense in a tough spot. But I think we had the momentum at that point and felt good about going for it.
Drew, it's been about a month. It'll be about a month since you played outdoors for next week's game in San Francisco. Are there any concerns? I know I've heard a lot on the radio about that the last few days, that your offense might not be as productive on the road outdoors. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I feel like our offense, our team is built for whatever condition. Obviously, you know, we play indoors here in the Superdome, and you know, that's what we've been doing as of late. But you know, we feel like we're the type of team that should be able to go anywhere, anytime, and play the type of football that we know how to play. Now, obviously, there's elements at times that you have to deal with, you know, whether it's, you know, no matter where it is. But, you know, we'll adjust accordingly. But I don't see any reason why we can't go on and continue to be productive.
Hey, Drew, on the fumble.
Well, that is the question for a lot of people, as the Saints will go on the road now. Again, unbeaten in the 9 games they played inside the Dome in the regular season, and of course this win tonight in the first round of the playoffs. But now they go to San Francisco, and look at the 49ers with that plus 28 turnover differential. How critical will that be in the divisional round matchup between these two? Saints tight end Jimmy Graham had a big day. Here he is now talking about the next opponent.
You know, it's been a pretty magical season for us so far, and you know, we just know it's one game at a time. You know, you're not promised tomorrow, and you know, we're going to do all we can to move on to the next round.
Jimmy, can you guys do this outside on grass against the defense like that?
Outside on grass, sure. You know,
surface make any difference?
Not for me. You know, surface or weather or whatever it is, you know, I'm going to come and play, and I'm going to be ready. And but we know what kind of defense they have. You know, we know how hard it is to get a win there. And they've been playing some fantastic football, and we're going to do all we can to try to stop them.
Well, it's going to be an interesting matchup, because until they go and have a dominant performance on the road, I think people are going to say, can you be this good on the road as you are in New Orleans? I mean, all 3 of their losses have been on the road. 2 of those were outdoors. The most inexplicable game of the year, October 30th, indoors, Rams 31, Saints 21. This team, they feed off that momentum, Trent. They feed off that crowd. Can they do this now in a hostile environment?
Well, we're going to see, but I think the challenge is great, because this 49er team is legit, and the team is legit, but they're run by their defense. The one thing that 49ers defense can do to maybe slow down this offense, I don't think there's any stopping the Saints offense, but to contain it and slow it down. The Niners are one of the few teams in football that can stop your run game with 7 people. They can play a split safety look for the majority of the game and stop your run game. Now, how does that matchup apply to the Saints game? So much of the Saints' big passing game comes when they can get the defense into a one-high look, run action pass, and they get up over the top of the defense. The Niners probably won't allow that to happen. The other thing about the Niners, Merrill, and you know this as good as anybody, if you can rush from the edges and condense the pocket, you can take away any quarterback. And Aldon Smith and Justin Smith and Patrick Willis and Bowman coming inside, and all the people they have rushing the passer, they can hit Drew Brees early and neutralize his passing game.
That's why I think this game is going to be so fascinating, because Detroit had that same ability. They could get on the edges. Saints had an answer for that. You know, they put a tackle out there. This offense has so many different ways to attack it. They have so many phases to their offense. That's going to be the problem for the San Francisco 49ers. And don't get caught up at, well, you know, they went to the Rams and they beat, you know, the Rams beat them. Listen, they're going to be watching the 49er tape all week. There's nobody going to San Francisco going, oh, this is going to be easy. They're going to watch them on tape, and they're going to realize, okay, we have got to be on in every aspect of our game. Our running game, inside, outside, our running backs getting matchups on their linebackers or their safeties, our perimeter passing game, our matchup passing game. I mean, all the things they have are going to have to be on display to break down this 49er defense. Now, one thing I do have to say that the 49ers do have, aside from a great defense, with their ability to run the football, that is 2 things that can slow this game down. I call them, they could get you in a ring, and they keep you up against the ropes. You start running, they pull you right back in. They can do that, and they can slow this game down, take 2 or 3 possessions away from the Saints.
Well, that's the different thing that the 49ers can do, really, than any other team that's in the playoffs in the NFC. I mean, the Lions, they wanted to get into a shootout. The Packers, they'll do that same thing. The 49ers are going to play a different kind of football, Trent, with this team. They're going to try to limit Drew Brees' possessions and just try and maximize any points they can with that running game.
They want it to be a slobber knocker, and they're going to practice that way. Everything the Niners are going to do, every message that's going to be preached to them by their coach Jim Harbaugh is, let's make this thing a slobber knocker. Let's make it ugly. Let's make it one of those grimy old throwback games. And the more it plays into those hands, the better chance the 49ers have. And don't forget about Alex Smith. I mean, he's kind of been the forgotten man of NFC quarterbacks. He's played really good football, and especially late on early downs, he has knifed the defense with the big pass play. You get a couple of those, you make it 14-3 Niners, and you start suffocating the Saints. This thing is a totally different thing than the Saints are used to.
Week 10, I thought, you know, the 49ers are about one quarter away from being good enough to play with the Packers or the New Orleans Saints. Not anymore because of Alex Smith. He has now elevated his game in the sense of complementing this running game and that defense. So they can get you for 4 quarters now. They slow it down, and it goes down to the end of the game. They have the ability, run or pass, to finish this game and win.
We'll find out what happens next Saturday when New Orleans goes to San Francisco. Just keep this in mind. The Saints, in history of the franchise, have never won a road playoff game. 0-4, including last year when they went to Seattle.
All that good analysis just went right out the wallhouse.
You're so smart.
I'm just saying, look,
somebody feeds
can they do it? Absolutely, but they'll be going up against something they've never done before. When we continue, much more on the game between the Bengals and the Texans. We will hear from Andre Johnson about his initial foray into postseason play and what that means going forward. Plus, we'll preview both games on Sunday, including the Pittsburgh Steelers, banged up as they are, going to take on Denver and Tim Tebow. Again, got off to a great start with the Houston Texans in their first ever playoff appearance, winning their first ever playoff game with their third-string rookie quarterback, of course, T.J. Yates. Andy Dalton had some great moments early, but this unbelievable play by J.J. Watt on the pick six. Remember, he started his collegiate career as a tight end at Central Michigan before becoming a defensive wonder at Wisconsin. And then in the third quarter, Yates to Andre Johnson, who missed so much of this season with the hamstring issues. The big play there, and the Texans win after the game. Andre with our Bob Holtzman.
That feels great, man. Words really can't describe it. Something I've been waiting for a long time, this team, this city. And, I mean, just look at it, man. The atmosphere was crazy in here today. And, you know, we went out and made the plays we needed to make it, got a big win.
6 weeks ago or so, T.J. Yates was a third-string quarterback. How do you think about how he played?
I keep telling people he plays with a lot of confidence. You know, bad things happen. He don't let you know he does a great job of hiding it. And, you know, he's very confident in what he does. And, you know, he's our quarterback, so we're going to ride him.
You guys head to Baltimore now. You already lost there once by a couple of touchdowns. What makes you think it's going to be different this time?
Well, it's a new game. You know, every game's different. We know they have a heck of a football team, but, you know, it's going to be a new challenge for us, and we're going to go up there and try to get it done.
Congratulations.
All right, thank you.
All right, Bob, thank you. Obviously, a very emotional Andre Johnson. He'd said before he never thought he'd see the postseason. Yeah. Unbelievable atmosphere. Great for the city of Houston. Great for Andre Johnson. And great for that defensive line. Yeah. If there's an Assistant Coach of the Year award, it's got to go to Wade Phillips and what he's done with that defense, which was terrible last year. Dead last against the pass, but he's revamped everything, changed it to a 3-4 scheme, and that defensive line was just nonstop.
Yeah, in any big game, you're going to have a game-wrecking crew at some position group. In this game, it was the Houston Texans defensive line, and it started early, and it went all day long, baby. These defensive linemen were so active. Look, Antonio Smith just collapsing the pocket, getting in there, and Brooks Reed coming in to finish it off with a big sack. Andy Dalton, that led to a 50-yard missed field goal, pushed him back 10 yards. Now you go later on. Maybe one of the finest plays you're going to see from a defensive tackle. J.J. Watt recognizes pass, stops his pass rush, goes up there and makes the play. And like I said earlier, this wasn't some lollipop interception. This is a double cheeker Andy Dalton throws, and he goes up with his left hand, snags it, finishes off with the touchdown. Later on in the game, Antonio Smith, who just played possessed the entire night, swim room, turns the edge, gets in, eats Andy Dalton right away. And then Earl Mitchell later on, playing that tilted nose, using the great handwork to get through the center, and the guard finishing off Andy Dalton. The Bengals did some really nice things offensively, but they could never finish off drives because that's when these game wreckers, the defensive linemen for the Houston Texans, took over and changed the possession.
They certainly did, and now this sets up a game for the Houston Texans, which is a rematch of Week 6, Merrill, when they went up to Baltimore and lost to the Baltimore Ravens. What do you see going forward in this matchup?
Well, now, T.J. Yates was the third-string quarterback in the first match.
That is correct. He did not see the field.
He is no longer the third-string quarterback. He is the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans. And when you look at this matchup, I mean, depends on what side you want to look at. Ray Rice is vital, period. If the Texans cannot control him, it's going to be a difficult game for the Texans. However, if they can create an environment like they did against the Bengals, where they run the football, they do a great job there. Yates complements that and does a good job there protecting the football. And they can control Rice, they have a shot. There is no question about it. Will they probably need an interception, you know, or a turnover? They might. They might. I mean, if they get that and all those other things fall into place, yes, this team can beat the Ravens.
Well, listen, that might have been the worst game defensively on the entire year for the Houston Texans. They gave up a 300-yard passer to Joe Flacco. Ray Rice had 101 yards rushing, and Anquan Bolton had 132 yards receiving. So if they need any motivation, it certainly would be that game. That might have been the worst defensive effort we saw all year from the Houston.
Now, I will say this. You know, going into the Cincinnati game, the Houston Texans, aside from maybe the Ravens, they couldn't run the football against the Cincinnati Bengals in the first matchup. They obviously made adjustments. They did a much better job the second half. To your point, yes, they do. They will look at that tape and they'll make adjustments, and hopefully that will play in their favor.
The other thing, too, there is that Arian Foster did not go off in that game. The Ravens defense did a good job there. And keep this in mind, Texans, 5 games lifetime against the Ravens, 0-5. They have yet to beat the Baltimore Ravens. We'll see what happens in the divisional round. Meanwhile, a couple more games coming up in the wild card round. What to watch for Sunday? Steelers-Broncos, 4:30 Eastern. 12-4, the Steelers are on the road because the Broncos were division champs. These teams are meeting for the 7th time in the playoffs, the most played postseason rivalry in the AFC since the AFL-NFL merger of 1970. For more on this, here's Josina Anderson.
After 3 straight losses to end the season, Sunday's wildcard game against the Steelers is big, not only for the Broncos, but also for the future of Tim Tebow. Broncos defensive end Jason Hunter told me that he could tell that Tebow was mindful of the pressure that he's under in practice, but he's doing his best to keep it business as usual. But it is not business as usual for the Steelers. Center Marquise Pouncey is out and told me that he's distraught that he will not be able to play. He re-aggravated his ankle in practice on Wednesday, but said he's looking forward to rooting for his Steelers teammates on the sidelines and hyping up Steeler Nation. Now, as for Ben Roethlisberger's injured ankle, he was limited in practice on Wednesday, but fully participated on Thursday and Friday. Offensive coordinator Bruce Arians says that he was moving around okay, not good, but just okay. In Denver, Josina Anderson, ESPN.
All right, Josina, thank you. Listen, Merrill, no question Tim Tebow struggled down the stretch in that 3-game losing streak to end the regular season. Hall of Fame defensive coordinator Dick LeBeau for the Pittsburgh Steelers has made a living out of confusing quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks. What do you think he has dialed up for Tebow on Sunday?
Well, I'm glad you present it like that because, you know, this is not about, you know, how the Steelers defense going to handle Tim Tebow. It is how is Tim Tebow and this Bronco offense going to handle this Steeler defense. Now, the first thing that Tim Tebow and this offense has to do, and you heard John Elway talk about it earlier in the week, he's got to pull the trigger. When you look at what teams are doing, they're playing man-to-man. They're making the window extremely tight at the beginning of the play, and Tim Tebow won't throw it. It bothers him that people play man-to-man, so that's why teams are doing it. He's at the top of the drop here. He's got a clean pocket. Now, he runs, right, because you assume, well, nobody's open. However, let's go now and focus on the wide receiver. Great job of getting the corner turn. Ball should be gone. That guy cannot be more wide open in the National Football League. Now, here's what I expect the Steelers to do. They keep building on this. They're going to play man-to-man. They're going to play press coverage. If they can make Tom Brady hold the football, I believe they can make Tim Tebow hold the football. Here's the wrinkle here. You have Troy Polamalu, the guy with long hair, number 43. He plays in the middle of the field. All he's doing is reading Tom Brady. He knocks over the running back there. Tom Brady has to throw the football away, holds on to it longer than he wants to. And Troy Polamalu playing in the middle of the field, he not only can help out with the man-to-man coverage, he now becomes a wild card to go get Tim Tebow if he chooses to run. There's all kinds of, I didn't throw Timmons out there. Timmons is a linebacker that can run. There is a lot of chess pieces here for Dick LeBeau to utilize, but I expect that man-to-man, that smothering pressure on the outside, and those different types of pressures to get after him with not a lot of people. And then you got the wild guy like a Timmons or a Troy Polamalu. I didn't even mention about their outside rushers. going to be a handful for the Broncos and Tim Tebow.
All right, if that's the matchup of the Broncos offense against the Steelers defense, let's flip the script here, Trent, and look at the Steelers offense against the Broncos D. Rashard Mendenhall is out, which means in more likely case of scenarios here, Steelers probably going to go spread 4 wide on the offense. A lot of times during that 6-game winning streak, the defense did a great job. How do they match up against that formation?
Well, most people right now are going, oh, no, the Steelers can't run the ball. They're going to have to throw it, spread out the Broncos. Bad news. No, actually great news against the Broncos. When the Broncos D was carrying this team for a 5-6 game stretch, people were playing in a box. They were keeping it tight. And then people start figuring out you spread this Broncos defense out, and they get spread real thin. And they struggle specifically with one formation they've been gashed all year long on, and that's empty. No backs in the backfield. 5 receivers out now. You see right here, their answer was to play zone against New England. They get mixed up in their zone concept. Chad Ochocinco down the boundary scot-free. Pitch and catch for Tom Brady. Easy 6 points. Once again, now their answer's going to play man. We'll lock you up. We'll play man. Have a little lurk defender there. Nope. Still a matchup issue. They leave 25 on Wes Welker. Gets him down to the 1. Now we're going to blitz. This is our answer. We've tried zone. We've tried man. Now we'll blitz. Not so good there. Broken down blitz versus empty. Gronk run. Gronk's the open space. Gronk get lots of yards. Yep. Buffalo. Now we're going to green dog. That means play man, and when the guy goes to block, then we'll blitz. You know what? You didn't do that very good either, because now we're going to screen off you, and the Bills are running scot-free. And there's countless plays in this formation where the Broncos just get gashed. Look for the Steelers to major in this empty. Look at all this stuff.